Good morning everyone, welcome to my channel. Okay, video number 9. I just wanted to first recap on the garden. In video number 8 we started with the yo-yos and popping in the stems for each of the flowers, and then I said I would go ahead and embellish them like I did on the other side of the panel, and then I popped some photos at the end of that video. So I just wanted to go through now what I actually did and give you a few close-up shots. I'll just zoom in a little bit more. Okay, so in the yo-yos I added different things, from little flower that I just stitched in that I had in amongst my bits and pieces. I finally got out and did some shopping and got myself some little red beads. I did some little yellow daisy stitches in there, added that little motif with a button and used a piece of the red ribbon to tie it off, but it was actually stitched into position, so it looks like it's being held by that little piece of ribbon. That's just a little scrap of lace. I went around the outside of that yo-yo with some beads. You can see I just stitched them on top. Some more blue beads in this yo-yo. I didn't do anything extra to these little flowers. I just placed the little French knot in the center of them to match the blue. I added more of the little trim and some random buttons. Another one of those little centers from a crocheted doily with a button, more trim, and then this last yo-yo I did just some little loops and add a little piece of lace, plus pop some beads around the outside of the yo-yo. Okay, in addition, I've now added a piece of lace to the bottom of the panel. I had mentioned it in previous videos that I had a piece of vintage lace that I really wanted to find a home for. So all I did with this is measure it to size, and it just so happened that the motifs ended exactly at the edge of the panel, which was great. If they hadn't, I probably would have changed to a different lace because I didn't want to be cutting one of the motifs. I wanted it to end, you know, nicely. So all I did with applying it was just slip stitched it into position at the bottom of the panel. So really simple. I just pinned it on and then just went along with the needle and thread and stitched it down. So that's now given a nice bottom to the panel. I'm really loving that. Some of these pieces that I've added through the garden were below the Jessie panel anyway, so now they're coming down onto this lace itself. For example, this side that we've just done, I added an additional motif. You can see that circle motif there. I then had a little pink lace motif, once again same words, which had some little sequins on and some little pearls. So I've had that kicking around for a little while, so I found a home for him. And then just to tie this into the rest of the quilt, I brought down some of those little clusters of flowers there as well. So that really sort of joins the whole process together, and that drifts down onto the lace itself. Okay, which helps sort of tie it all together. All right, I'm pretty happy with the bottom. I don't think I'll be adding anything extra, but you never know. If, like I said, I get a little scrap piece of ribbon or some fibers, it's a great spot to just pop them in. So there's plenty of space that more flowers could be added. But at the moment, I'm happy to move on. Now, something I mentioned in a previous video as well is these little gaps that I've created here where I've couched in red cotton a little flower shape. I felt were very empty. So I have gone ahead and put in a little lace flower in there. Now, I've also mentioned this in the past as well. I've used them many, many times. I often pick up at thrift stores, charity stores, the packs of handkerchiefs we used to get in the 80s as gifts, and you get 3 or 4 in a nice little box with a little cellophane lid. If I see them, I grab them because often there's some gorgeous laces on them. Now this little set, for example, the corner has all of these little flowers. So I've got a few of them, and I tend to use them all the time because they're just a lovely little piece that I can cut out and apply. So in this particular one, you'll see between the flowers there's a little 4 little dots. I can point to it here. See the 4 little dots? I'll mention them in a minute because even those are useful. But for now, I've just cut out one of these little flowers and I've just stitched it into the center of our red flower. So real simple, but it just sort of has added another dimension to it. So I've gone back to where the swan was and completed those few. Now, I did notice that way back up here in the beginning, we did one here as well. I'm actually going to unpick that because I find, I don't know, it's disappearing a little bit. So I'm going to redo it in the red, and then I'll probably unpick this little stamen that's coming out from the flower, shorten it back a little bit, so then I can put my lace motif in the center. That's the only one that we did very early in the piece that I need to now adjust so that it matches these ones. So that's a little task I'll do at some point through this video. Now this video, I also had to mention I found some tiny little buttons to use there. In the bottom down here where the X's appear, I had used some clear to white buttons, but these were too big. So I had to really go hunting and find these tiny little buttons here so that they were in proportion to the X's. So that was a bit of a challenge, but I was pleased when I found them. They were multicolored, so I had to rummage through until I found some that sort of matched the little house in the pinks and the blues. So pretty happy with the way they came up. That was a bit of a concern when I saw the size of what I needed, but I did have some. Now this video is going to be a lot of couching, because what I'd like to do is, there's another flower that I'd sketched in, is put the red around him plus fix the one that's up the top here. So that's one task. The swan is going to be part of the process. So they will be using our original blue crochet cotton that we're going to be using to couch around the swan. So that is also another task. So I'll do that off camera because you've seen that before, so that's not very exciting. So I'll be couching the swan in the blue. I'll then go rummaging for some lace to complete the body of the swan. Now also on the side here, Jessie's drawn a squiggle that starts here at the top of the spindle and goes all the way up past this little house. So I'd like to do something there. So what I've chosen to do that is I have some scrap yarn here from a crocheted toy I did. I happen to have one that is not used yet. So it's a mix of cashmere and cotton. So it's got a beautiful soft feel about it. It's, does it say it's ply anywhere? It's pretty much the thickness of the blue yarn that we're using on the swan. No, it doesn't say. But it's so soft and so pretty, and I've got these little scrap bits left. So my thoughts are to use the pink, and I'm going to couch that through the little squiggle right through, and I'll even go over the doily that we've put on the piece already from the side seam. So that'll be couched into position like that. Then I'm going to come back through and use the purple to stitch it down. Now if I find that that purple is just too thick and doesn't look right, I'll go looking for a stranded cotton that matches that colour, so that it can be used to couch it down. And then the X's are going to be using the blue. Oh, it's like a green. So in amongst it will be these little little X's all the way through. So that's what I planned for that squiggle with the X's. There are also at the top of the house, when I get to the very top, there are also some more X's like we've done in the past. So they will be blue with the white thread, and then I'll find some buttons that suit those little spots there. I won't be doing the house in this video, that's another video. I'll just be focusing on the swan. I mentioned that in video 8 I did a lot of seed stitch, and you can see now how much I did. I started down the bottom with the little house, worked my way up past the little house, and there wasn't a lot there to do because it was such a big image here and here. But I very quickly got to the swan, who was nestled in next to the tree, so there wasn't a lot of seed stitch there. And then before I knew it, I was coming around the top of the swan and across her back. And the movie then rolled on to another movie, so I kept going, and I've come right up through here. I've come up the other side of this little house and across the roof of the house. So as you can see, if I bring that up, there's just thousands and thousands of little stitches. And it was just one of those nights where I just didn't want to think too much. I was really enjoying it. So I got to the bottom of the second house at the top, and then I started coming up here. There's this tulip on the side, and I stopped there. So I haven't done the inside, and I haven't gone around the very top house. So if you're feeling like doing some seed stitch and you've got a spare 4 or 5 hours, this was just great fun. I just kept going, and I was flipping around the place. I kept glancing at these houses, and because I'd stitched a house further down, I started thinking about this little house, which is just a bigger version of the bottom one, and then an even bigger one, and what I could do to make these pieces come alive. So a lot of seed stitch, so there's a lot of work there in itself, but this video is going to be focused on the swan. Now, I mentioned the little 4 little dots on the napkin, on the handkerchief. What I do with those is they're perfect highlighters around eyes. Now, I hadn't done the swan's eye in the first video of the swan because I always wanted to put a bead in there, but the bead is so harsh and I wanted to soften her eye. So those 4 little dots from that napkin I've stitched into her eye position and then popped a blue bead. I'll see if I can get that closer up to the camera so you can see the little 4 dots and then the little blue bead. And I've stood the bead up so that I get a line, not so much of a round circle. And I just think that that has just softened her eye beautifully. It's made it look a little bit more feminine. I just really love the way that that come together. With eyes, I often do add a little bit of lace somewhere in around the eye. It just, I don't know, gives it a new dimension. There's the other one done there. So the little bead is in position as well as the little dot piece. So when you're looking at your laces, don't discard little random features within it, because those little 4 dots there are perfect for something somewhere. I know it's probably crazy to think that we keep all these bits, but you just, take your time and have a good look at lace, because there's amazing structures within lace that you can see that can be used somewhere. Okay, I'm going to stop the video here. We've recapped on the flowers at the bottom. I've shown you the seed stitch that can be done through the side of this panel. We've talked through the squiggle, so when I come back the squiggle will be completed. I will couch around the swan in the blue. I'll probably even stitch in the beak, which is the yellow. You can see the beak over here. And then I'll go rummaging for the lace. I will do something similar to this swan, but slightly different. I'd say the back piece will be the same because it's just such a beautiful plumage. Whether I use that again or create something different, I'm just not sure. So we'll see what I can find. If I can't find anything perfect, I may just come back and at least use that yellow inserted piece again. and then do something completely different here. But we'll see. It'll just depend on what I can find and what comes together. And I'll also finish this flower and redo this flower up here so that they're all with the red cotton. That colour was 304 if anyone is wanting to find that nice raspberry red, and that's a number 8 in size. It's just beautiful, beautiful colour. Okay, I think that's all I had on my list to show you. Yeah, so I'll stop the video here, and when I come back I will have done a lot of couching and we'll have at least found the pieces that are going to go into position on my swan. Okay everyone, I shall see you shortly. Bye-bye. Okay, I'm back. Now I didn't get very far. I thought I'd be back showing you everything we spoke about completed, but I'm still working on the squiggle. So I just wanted to quickly pop back and show you what I've done, because like everything, it's turned out to be more elaborate than I had thought it would be. So I just thought I'll quickly show you. I've gone through and put the pink yarn down, and then I've couched over it with the lavender yarn. I didn't end up changing the size of the yarn down to a stranded cotton because it seemed to work beautifully. So that's the little lavender couched stitch. Then the little X's I did in the green, and then this is where things started to get out of hand. I then went and found some cream cotton, some crochet cotton that was a similar weight to what I was using, and put an extra X or a cross in the center of each X. So I'll just bring that up to the camera so you can see. Okay, so you can see the little green X and then the little cream cross, and then in the center I added a little bead. Once again, this is where it starts getting elaborate, hence this little video. I've then come back to the squiggle and started beading in some little pearly beads here in sets of 3. And what I've done is I've come up on one side of the squiggle, down on the opposite side, and then I've come up again and then down on the other side. And again, so it gives the impression that these beads are wrapping around the actual squiggle. I've before I've moved on to the next set of 3, I've made through the center here 2 stitches just to make sure it's nice and secure. Then anchored it down, come up, did a little stitch, then picked up another 3 beads and then jumped over to this side, and then come back underneath and went through again, anchored it down. So I want it nice and strong. Now this is a similar technique that we used on our trunk of our tree, the vine. And also the other thing is I wanted some of the beads that we used over here, those creamy coloured ones, to appear elsewhere in the piece. So this was a perfect opportunity to start working in some more little beads. It'll be a subtle detail, but being that the swan and the houses are so bright and predominant, I was pretty pleased with the way this was coming together as just a little background element to work in. So I'll just quickly show you how I did. I'm just grabbing my needle here that I have threaded and it's come undone. I'm going to stitch in a set of 3 beads just to show you the process. So I'm just going to put that there. These are the beads I used. That was into the cross, the little turquoisey bead, and I've got the little plain ones for the squiggle itself. So I'll just place this so that we can see. You watch me tip these beads over. Okay, I might zoom in a little bit more so that you can see the work. Okay, so I'm ready to come up here on my side of the squiggle. Going to pick up 3 beads. I'll put them out of the way because you can guarantee they will be spilt. And now I'm going to make sure that my needle goes on the opposite side of the squiggle so it looks like these little beads are winding around the squiggle itself. Oops, look, I've got 4 beads. Let's just pull that out. Let's remove a bead. This is going really well, isn't it? Okay, thread my needle. Sorry about that. Such a fine needle for beading that can be difficult to thread. Just snip that clean again so that it goes through. Okay, so we still have our 3 little beads on there. You can see them there as they move around. Now I'm going to go down on the opposite side of the squiggle, come back up where I originally came through to start these little beads, and then go through them a second time. That really helps to secure them. Plus, if then a thread breaks, you've still got one to hold them into position. And then I do just a little stitch at the end just to really secure it. Now that I'm gone down on the other side of the squiggle, my next lot of beads need to come up on that same side. So I'm going to bring my needle through over there. I'm now going to pick up another 3 beads. Let's see if I can get this. 1, 2, and 3. And they are now going to be secured on the opposite side of the squiggle, which is my side, like so. I hope you can see them. They're like really soft, creamy, pearly looking beads. So they're probably not the best colour for you to see, but it'll give you a bit of an idea more so of the stitching process. So I'm just going to do a little stitch at the very end just to make sure everything's secure. Bring my needle along a little bit further. So it's now there. Pick up another 3 beads. 1, 2, 3. I think these are size 12 seed beads from memory, but you could really use any size you like as long as they look right to you. So they're now stitched in to position. So we've gone from my side to the opposite again. Now we come back up where we were with the needle and thread through a second time just to make sure that they don't go anywhere. I'll do one more and then I'll stop the video. So I brought my needle back up on the opposite side. Pick up some more. 1, 2, 3. Get rid of one. Okay. It has added more time to my project, but I think it'll be worth it because it'll be a nice little detail on that side. So I've now stitched them with 1 stitch, going through for the second stitch, and then a little stitch at the end just to make sure that's secure. Okay, so it is going quite quickly. I'll just bring my needle up in the next position and then just pin it there to hold it. So there we go. That's the little detail going onto the squiggle. 3 little beads plus the crosses or the X's have turned into a star with a little bead on the inside. I'll just bring that back up to the camera so you can see the little detail there. Okay, I shall stop it now and get back to stitching. How quickly I got detoured with more work than I thought this little squiggle was going to be, but I think it'll be worth the effort. It'll be a beautiful little detail going up the side of our panel. Okay, see you soon. Hello everyone, I'm back just to finish this video off with the update on my swan. So I've finished the swan. I ended up doing a similar version to this one, but you will notice a slight change to the original one. So what happened was I had enough lace to do the plumage across the top, same as this one. I had another corner that I could use of the yellow crocheted doily, and then I started to build up the little cluster similar to this one, but it sort of felt, I don't know, I was like, all I could see when I looked at the panel were these two blobs of yellow. So what sort of came to be was I felt like I needed to push the yellow back a little bit. I don't know if that makes sense at all, but it just didn't blend as the rest of it is. It's hard to explain. But what I ended up doing is I found this piece of lace that to me was a little bit wing-like. So I cut off one of these panels and I then folded it in half once it was removed, and that became this wing treatment here, if that makes sense. And what that did is it made the yellow disappear, but it's still there subtly. So I was much happier with the way that that sort of looked. Then I did the little treatment as per this one and just did similar sort of clusters of little rosettes. They are the pre-made ones, a couple little buttons, some eyelash fibers just to soften it a little bit, and stitched it all into position. So I was really happy with the way she looked. So then I kept looking over here and I had this big yellow blob. Is that a good word to describe it? It was just, yeah, too obvious. So what I went and did was I lifted up the little cluster just a little bit and slid in this lace motif that I found. So what it did was soften the yellow back, plus tied it in a little more with this one. So there's like this cotton and then this crocheting and then a more modern lace motif. It's like layers of different structures to create the swan. So I'm really happy with them now. They're there, but not blaringly obvious that they're on the panel. I feel like they blend a little more. So I'll just bring that up to the camera and show you. So you can see the piece in behind, which was stitched on first. Then the yellow corner went in, and then this piece, which was one big piece, folded in half to create the two little sub wings, and then of course then the cluster. So I'll just bring it over to this side and you can see the difference to that swan over there now. I think she looks way better. I really think we've layered more and it just looks so much more lush. It's made a little less yellow. Yeah, that's that's what I did this time with the swans. As for the swan itself, I couched the blue around like we've done in the past. I used our big ball of crochet cotton and then the matching blue cotton just to pop that into position. I then satin stitched her beak using the same colour, and I'd already placed the little eye into position using a little bit of lace around her eye. So I'm really happy now with that. The squiggle I've already spoken to you about and what I did there, so that's all done. Popped a few buttons in here. I think I may have mentioned that a few minutes earlier, but a day or so has passed, so do forgive me if I do repeat myself a little bit. I was fixing also the flower that was up here. Remember, the X came too far, so I've unpicked it, removed the X, moved the three little green buttons back a little bit, and then couched in the flower, and then added the bead and the little lace motif to the center. So that fixed that little error up. Yeah, so that's pretty much nearly half of the quilt done, bar the big flower that's here. There's not a lot left to do, but still some really great pieces to work on. Now, I did mention earlier in this video that I'd be using this cotton here for my flowers. That's actually incorrect, because when I went to fix this little one up, I realized it was a completely different color and thickness. So I had to do a little bit of rummaging, and I had been using stranded cotton for the little flowers, and it's a slightly different red, and of course it looks completely different when it's, you know, put into position. You can see that is such a more deep, let me just, burgundy red. So I do apologize if anyone went to use this. It's not the right one. We've used that elsewhere, but the little flowers is actually stranded cotton from DMC, and the number is 221. This is a classic red work cotton. If you're doing red work, you'll know this number very much so. So I did need to correct that because I was sending you down the wrong direction. Okay, I will leave the video at that. Our swans are complete. We've tidied up a few little things, the squiggles in place. So now we're coming up the panel and need to decide what we're going to do next. So stay tuned. I just want to have a little think about it all, whether we do some houses or the lady's dress. We will see. Okay, everyone, have a lovely week, and I will see you all in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe. I release a Jessie Chorley video every Friday. So it's weekly. If you hit the subscribe button, YouTube will send you a notification to say that the next video is available to watch, because a lot happens in a week. So it's just a nice little reminder to have. So hit subscribe, and YouTube will do all the rest for us. Okay, thanks everyone. I'll see you all soon. Bye.